sometimes get in the way, but it was not like I was not going to do this. I made it a point to see it this past weekend, and it was long overdue for me to get this up. So with that said, let's just go ahead and jump into it. First and foremost, let me just put it out there now. I enjoyed this movie immensely. I had waited patiently all year for this bad boy to come out, and I was not disappointed. Let me just put off this as well. When it comes to DC Marvel, I don't have a favorite. I like both of them equally. So I'm just going to say it like that. I'm not going to pick any particular movies and all that. Again, I love them equally. Now, I will say this. I love when we got a little bit of taste of him when he did Justice League. Not enough to my liking, but just enough to know that I expected, of course, to see some action, a little bit of sarcastic, commentary at times, a little bit of, comedic, moments here and there, and I was not disappointed. Now, I will say I definitely feel like I got a little bit of everything. I was very happy that James Wan had done this. When I saw the first trailer, I literally was dumbfounded. And I put in the trailer, thank you, James Wan. I should have put it in the thumbnail. It was just, to me, I was just like, I was so happy. I'm not only watch most of his stuff is always considered more on the horror side, but I love that he did something totally different than what we're expecting, and for it to be totally different for horror out the gate, he did a great job. Now, for me, with this particular one, I know a lot of people said and knew that Jason Momoa had already signed on to do this a while prior to Justice League. He had to kind of keep it under wraps for a minute, whatever, and couldn't let on prior to them doing Justice League, but I'm glad that they picked him. I feel like there's no one, honestly, I feel could have done this particular role, so I'm very glad it was him that did this, and we couldn't ask for a better person to play Arthur Curry now, because I know what, not everyone, but I'll say the overall consistency with Aquaman is a lot of people see him from the comics, the blonde hair, rather geeky, dorky. A lot of them don't really want to follow him, whichever, but I feel like him putting his stamp on this made Aquaman maybe a little bit cooler to some now. Who knows, when next Halloween come, you'll see some, definitely you'll see them at Comic-Con, moving forward, certain any con of sorts, they'll showcase it now, and that'll be nice, giving that love to Aquaman, moving forward. I know he'd been all over for the last couple of weeks, doing all the press for it, and of course, being, the host on Saturday Night Live with it and all that, just living, like they say, his best life, and he literally did. So I can tell he's enjoying this ride, and he's a humble guy, and I'm just glad that finally he's having his day, whatever, and this was his day, and this was his weekend. He did very well. I think he was #1 at the box office. So, but what that says, so moving right into the actual review, whichever. I had to get that out the way, whichever. Now, for this one, I love the way it starts off. Of course, you all remember from the trailer, of course, Tom Curry finds Nicole Kidman's, character, Queen of Atlanta, excuse me, and, they, of course, I love how you see how she's kind of hesitant, very defensive, whichever, and, guarded, whichever, but then, of course, she, breaks down that little shell and becomes, very taken with him, and vice versa, to the point where, of course, they get together, and of course she's seen pregnant. They have a little son, cute as it can be. The little baby was so stinking cute, and of course it shows him getting older, and of course you see other scenes that happen, whatever, where she has to finally leave, and she can no longer say, didn't know, won't be spoiling this, continue on. So of course it shows him now currently he's older, and he's dealing with certain situations undersea, but of course in where he's living at, whatever. You get introduced to, of course, Manta, aka Black Manta, played by I want to say Yahya. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. My apologies if not. Don't beat me over in the comment section. He, of course, we kind of introduced him a little bit, with a little bit of his storyline, a little bit of back history. Of course, Michael Beach is playing his father in this particular, scene, whatever, and all that. He's not in the movie throughout the movie, whatever, but he has a very short scene, but a very significant scene that kind of sets up the situation that ends up happening between him and Aquaman. And he kind of tells a story about a certain particular weapon that goes down generation, all that, and then things certain happen that with them doing the type of job they do, where it looks like they're kind of underwater, like pirates of sorts. You're doing something where you're endangering other people's lives, and you kill people to get what you want, whatever. So when certain things happen with Manta, in the situation with his family, whatever, he feels like someone should take mercy. Doesn't work that way. And Aquaman, aka Arthur, lets it be known, whatever. And of course, by then, he basically wants some sort of revenge. So from there, of course, you see the scene of, other parts of Atlantis, excuse me, where you get to see, the underworld. I will say the visuals were spectacular. I love the underworld. I love how you can see them talk. The movements, like the hair moving, them talking, whichever, and all that. It was just done beautifully. You get introduced to King Nereus. You get introduced to Vulko. You get introduced to, of course, to Mera. Of course, Mera comes above, the world, underworld, to come and meet up Arthur, to explain to him he has to do something and take his rightful place as heir, to the protector of the deep. And he's none too happy because, of course, with him being the child, but considered the bastard, half human, half Atlantean, they don't feel like, he's deserving. King Orm, played by Patrick Wilson, of course, feels like, he's trained all his life to do whatever, to be this, whatever, all that. This boy, what would he know? He wouldn't know anything. And of course, Arthur doesn't want any part of this, but then certain things happen. If you saw in the trailer, of course, the seas, the waters rise up and cause all this damage, on Earth, whatever. And he just feels like, I need to put a stop to this. I'm going to deal with this, and then I'm coming back, whatever, you all can do this. So of course, this is the time they use. And from there, this is kind of where you see the beginnings of the growth that Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman, goes through. It's like his growth, his journey, and then this journey takes him on a journey, kind of like a treasure hunt, if you will, to find, as you saw in the trailer, the Trident, which is the main Trident, that will hone him to be the king of Atlantis. And from there, they deal with certain things, where he gets to, of course, understand what's happening, underneath the water. Of course, they do eventually have a situation where he is captured, whichever, and I love those scenes. I won't say exactly the things that happen. Of course, you all see what looks like to be some sort of battle. Other things happen. You hear the things that are going on, with King Orm and Mera, whichever. It's not, she's not to say she's not being forthcoming, but she doesn't tell some of the reasons why she, wants to do what she's trying to do, to cause King Orm not to do what he's, be very malicious, but not realizing, his overall intent. I will say this, Patrick Wilson's character King Orm does make some good points about certain things happening within the sea, dealing with, the pollution, whatever, and all that, and made a very, very valid point with some things he brought up, whichever, and understanding as to why he feels his need to want to go up to, the surface world and do certain things because of the amount of harm they've caused to all of the creatures up, within, underneath the underworld, whichever. So it was very interesting to listen to his reasoning for what he wants to do, whatever, but just at the way his tact is at it, whichever, I didn't particularly care for, because at times he can be such a jerk, whichever, but it is what it is. He's trying to build all these groups to come together, to go together for all these different 7 kingdoms or whichever, to bring them together to do what he is, so he can be the main, person in charge, like the ocean master, whichever. But I liked how, like I said, you get to see King Nereus, which is played by Dolph Lundgren. I enjoyed his scenes in this, whichever. Very effective. I do know that, of course, he is Mira's father. I love that we get to see them interact a little bit. Of course, I love the scenes between Arthur and Vulko, which was nice, played by William Dafoe. That was really good to see as well. I like him training him, showing him certain things, whichever. I didn't like how he had to feel the need to keeping things from him in regards to understanding what's going on with his mother. He's thinking if he does all these things, he'll finally get to see her, whatever. And it was just all these other things, whatever, and just keeping him, basically, out of the loop of certain things going on, whichever. I felt so sad, of course, when Nicole Kidman has to explain when she has to leave, Tom to raise Arthur, whatever. She's just like, you both will be safe. There's a reason I have to go. Look for me. When daylight goes down, or sunlight goes down, whatever. I'll be standing and waiting, whatever. And of course, the part that really hurt was the part where she's like, make sure he doesn't forget about me. Just so sad. Before she leaped into the water off of that little bridge at the end, whichever. But I just like how there's so many other things that happen throughout this movie. I love seeing them deal with the parts with the trench, that was a good scene. I love all the action scenes, of course, with Manta. You all saw that in the extended trailer that they gave us, where it was like, what, 5 minutes, whatever. That was a nice shot where it's kind of like a full shot that just goes and goes and goes. I will say this, and I'm glad that it wasn't just always Arthur getting some good fights in. I love the scenes where Mira's showing she can kick some butt. We get to see some of her powers. That was really nice, because I was hoping we would, because I did hear that Mira, wasn't sure. I would never do a comic book thing. I don't know if I could want to do that. And then she read, the script and read some of the comments. She's like, oh, she kicks some butt. She does some things. You're like, okay. And then she, was really down to do it. And I'm kind of glad she did it, because I think now seeing her playing Mira, even though we saw her, of course, in the suit in Justice League, and then seeing her in here, you get to see her more, whatever, fully in her character, going, back and forth for her banter with Arthur, and then seeing how she, vibes with King Orm, whatever, and then of course with her father. I just like that. I like all the different people, she interacts with, whatever. See, she's holding her own amongst all these different, characters, and all of them, of course, being the men in the movie, whichever, because she's mainly the main focal point. You do, of course, get to see Nicole, the queen, but not as much as you see Mira, and I feel like she held her own amongst all the guys within the movie. So, but like I said, the action scenes, of course, the scene between Manta and Arthur after he's knocked him down, he's like, who are you, whatever. They had a very good fighting scene. I really enjoyed that. And then, of course, there's a scene between him and King Orm, a little bit towards the end. And you see, of course, the battle early on in the movie within after the first hour or so. But then you see another little fight sequence, which was really done really well. So I can say overall, I enjoyed the movie. I just love that it was kind of like it took him on truly a journey of growth, of understanding why he should see himself, as, the people, his people, in the deep. They need a hero. They don't just need a king. And let me tell you, everything about this movie I love. I love the scene when he finally gets the trident, which you all see in the trailer. I'm not giving that away. But when he comes out, the shadows of that water, with the full suit on, oh my gosh, it was so good, because they kept showing it with certain other parts of the scene that you all see. You just see that one little clip where it shows him standing there and he puts the trident down, but it kind of course, continues on. Then there's another main battle between all the different underwater kingdoms or whichever, which was beautifully done with the big, large crabs. Gorgeous. So I just tell you guys, I can't say it enough. I really enjoyed this movie, so much so that I definitely probably plan to see it maybe next weekend again. Just want to see it one more time at the theater before some other stuff comes out in January, because Old 19's here and it's a lot of stuff coming out that I'm going to want to see. So I'm definitely going to catch it one more time. Now for my rating, I will give it, I don't do it this often. Again, like I said, this will be the third one of this year. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to give it a 10. I liked it. I liked everything about it. I will say this. The music at times in it, I wasn't vibing with all the music choices that they put in that. So I'm just going to be honest. I'm not going to fib and lie on that part. I wasn't sure, who picked some of the music. But, overall, some of the selections were fine. But it was a couple of them that were just like, it doesn't kind of go with the flow of this particular scene going into another scene. But that's just how I feel about that. You all might have liked the music and all that. And like I always say, to each his own. It's all good, whichever. So comment below, you guys. Let me know what you all think about the movie. If you've seen it or not. You plan to see it. You got enough people who've said good things about it. You feel comfortable to go see it. Go see it. I think you will enjoy it. So, but with that said, you guys, I hope you enjoy my review. And I will see you on the next one. You guys take care.